Hi everyone, today we are looking at drawing noses. You'll be drawing 3 noses to practice. And really the thing to think about with noses is there's not a lot of lines in noses when you're drawing them. In fact, the only place where you're really going to see lines is at the bottom. So here's some line drawings of a few noses that I was looking at. So you'll want to have your reference sheet. I've put a reference sheet for you with a bunch of different noses, 2 pages worth for you to look at in Schoology. So, drawing noses, I guess let's think of them in a few different ways. So if we break them down to basic forms, we've all practiced drawing and rendering a sphere. So if we can think of the nose as a series of spheres together, think of the center of the nose as the largest of the spheres. So if we think of that part and just draw in or carefully think about, having just a sphere there. And then if we think about the 2 side nostrils as spheres that sort of overlap into that big one. So a little smaller, and in this case, they're almost kind of lined up. So if this was the bottom of my nose, those spheres kind of line up along the bottom. Okay, so that's one way to think of beginning to draw a nose. Now I can then go in and see like the shape isn't a perfect circle at the bottom. I can see the shape of the nostril inside, and then this outside of the form gives me the outside shape of the nostril. I can see this side filling in and then the outside shape of this nostril. So really, that's a good way to get me started drawing the form of the nose. And then as I go in to render this, I can see that on the sides of this sphere, there's some darkness. This one looks like the light sort of coming from in front and below, which is a little more of an unusual light source. The light source typically is going to be more like this one where you're seeing it out front or on top. But this just was a photograph taken with a different light source, so I'd be sort of shading lighter down below. So let's look at another nose. Let's look at this one right here. So we've got this one thinking of that sphere here. And if I draw that sphere as the center part of the nose, and then if I'm looking at the nostrils, they're really much lower than the sphere. So instead of being level like the other one, they sort of drop down a bit, and they're going to be down lower here. Okay, and then I can see where do those the inside of the nostril sort of fit within here. And I can draw the shape of that within the smaller part of the sphere. And then I've got the outer part of the nostril, and the rest is just shading. So that's another way to think of a nose. So thinking of those 3 spheres, the last one I want to look at, just as far as forms go, is this one right here. So I'll set this one over here. And if I'm looking at this one and I see the sphere of the center part of the nose, and I'll draw that in. And so as with anything else, you've got to look at a reference. Everybody's nose is different. There's no one like way to draw all noses forever. You've just got to look at them. But if I notice this one, the spheres here on the side that form the outer nostrils, they seem a little higher than the center one. So in that case, I'm going to take my center sphere, and then up here, I'm going to be drawing the nostrils. And they're always overlapping. And then that's where I can also go in, and that's not a perfect circle that I'm looking at of that person's, and really in this case I'm not really seeing into their nostrils so much, and it's sort of flatter on the sides than a perfect circle. And that's how I get the lines for this one. So this is how you could use spheres to help you. Now I'm going to draw one where I don't include the spheres, but I'm going to show you how to shade this as well. So if you're just doing line drawings, this is enough for line drawings. What I don't want you to do, some common errors. So here is what not to do. Common mistake number 1. The center of the nose is tiny, the nostrils are enormous. Don't do that. Ew. Common mistake number 2. There. And then the worst, the line continues. Don't do that either. Common mistake number 3. You might get this really nice drawing of these nostrils looking good, and then we get the outside shape, and then all of a sudden there's this line that goes up. And you know what, guys? We don't have lines that go up our nose. What we have is a form that's defined by value. So there's no line here. There's no line. There are areas that get darker and lighter. So we definitely do have, a light highlight where it sticks out and is protruding out towards us. And we have areas that get darker as they go along towards the cheek and under the eye. And sometimes, depending on the light source, we have maybe one side that's lighter overall. It might just get a little light gray, comes to white, and then one side that's darker. So just like shading a cylinder here, but we're not drawing the lines. So we're only really drawing the lines just at the bottom. So your line drawing is going to look a lot more like these. And then in the next video, I'll show you how to shade.